Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to begin the process of installing the coilovers into the Green Cherokee. I don't know if you've noticed, but in the last couple of videos of this series, my shop has been getting progressively dimmer, to the point where I need to fix that issue before we can continue. I have about 25 of these LED 5-panel shop lights throughout the shop. They were already installed when we bought the place and have been doing good until now. 15 of the lights were out. I thought I had, I don't know, a loose connection or something somewhere because some were flickering. But to my surprise, I found no loose connections and just that 15 of them had gone bad almost all at once. I think these are just cheap lights. So for now, I'm putting the remaining 5-panel shop lights on the side of my shop where I do most of the work, and just LED bulbs on the other side. This is a temporary fix that'll get us back up and going for now. That is so stupid. Now my shop is two different colors. I also started another little project today before getting to work on the Jeep. I have a lot of miscellaneous tools that are supposed to be mounted to a table to use, such as a table grinder, a table saw, and a vise. I'm limited to table space though, so when I go to use one of those tools, I'll usually just clamp it to my wooden bench. I'm throwing together some parts and pieces I have lying around to make a small table to hold the table saw and my vise. I used a heavy-duty truck drum as the base, a heavy-duty truck frame on top of that, a scrap piece of DOM, and finally another piece of frame as the tabletop. This is the perfect little setup for these two tools. I also cut some old U-bolts in half and welded them to the DOM. This is a great spot for my assortment of clamps. In the future, I'll finish this project with some nice gussets and maybe some more attachments. I like it. It adds some character to the shop. These coilovers are the Fox 2.5 by 14-inch coilovers. Like I said in one of the previous videos of this series, I got them from AccuTune and I got them valved and tuned specifically for this Jeep. These are pretty big coilovers. We put the same ones into the rear of Jake's TJ about a year ago actually. They were literally the same exact ones, Fox 2.5s, except they were 12-inch coilovers. They were slightly shorter. For this build, this Jeep is gonna see a lot of rocks. It already does, and I wanted the most articulation as possible. That's why I went with the 14-inch. What we're going to be doing in today's video, we're going to try to get the lower mounts for these figured out. And to start off with that, I have a few measurements I want to share with y'all. Fully extended, these coilovers measure from eye to eye 37.5 inches, roughly. That's what I took with a tape measure. That's pretty tall, and just so y'all know, the 14-inch comes from the amount of shaft showing at the bottom. Fully collapsed, these measure eye to eye at 23.5 inches. Once again, that's a measurement I took with a tape measure. When I got these tuned and valved from AccuTune, they asked for a lot of measurements, especially weight measurements. They asked if I had an aftermarket bumper, a winch on the front. They asked for the front and the rear weight measurements. They asked if I had the stock 4.0 in it or maybe an LS or diesel. I gave them as much information as I could, and that helps them determine exactly how these need to be valved. Originally, I wanted 4 inches of the shaft showing at ride height. You're gonna get most of your articulation from droop, so you really don't need much up travel. That 4 inches would be your up travel. That's the route we went with Jake's. We did 4 inches of up travel in the rear of his TJ. So that was the route I wanted to take on this, but for this build specifically, and for these coilovers and how they're valved, they recommended 5 inches. So that's what we went with. So at ride height with 5 inches of shaft shown, we should be looking at eye to eye 28.5 inches. Now that's still very tall. Just to give you all an idea, from the top of the truss up to the coil bucket is 14 inches. So where I'm going with this is these aren't gonna fit unless we cut a hole into our engine bay, and the top mount, the coilover towers are mounted in the engine bay. This is a very common thing to do with builds like this, so that's exactly what we're gonna be doing here today. So mainly today, we're gonna be working on the lower mounts just for time's sake. It's definitely gonna be the easier of the two brackets, versus the coilover towers. But before we start working on those lower mounts, I wanna be able to drop the coilovers in there just to be able to visualize it and actually see it. So we're gonna start today by cutting a hole into our engine bay. We gotta move a few things around. I think we're gonna have to move the coolant reservoir, probably the fuse box, and I'm not sure what's on the driver's side here. I think we got more room on the driver's side. One more thing, another thing that people do in extreme cases, if we had gone with 16-inch coilovers, They usually cut a hole in their hood and the coilovers will be mounted through the hood. That's not what I'm trying to do with this. Now, I don't want to mount these through the hood just because this is a daily driver. It sees a lot of weather, it sees rain, snow, and whatnot. We're gonna be driving this thing all over the country, and I just don't want that weather coming down through the engine bay from the top. And just for aesthetics, for something that I'm trying to build this to be a clean looking Jeep, I just don't want those mounted through the hood. Now, with all that being said, let's start cutting some more holes in this clean Jeep. Now we've got a ton of room over here on the driver's side. This is where the airbox goes. It goes from right up to the front here, and it probably comes to about right here. So we can reroute that. We're definitely gonna need to reroute that. I'm gonna look up what other people do with that. I think we're probably gonna have to get a whole new airbox altogether, but that's not a problem. This is where we're gonna be cutting out. You can see right down here. This is the top of the coilover tower on the other side. We want to just make sure that we're going to stay clear of the master. I obviously don't want to mess with that. I don't think that'll be a problem though. I think we can definitely get away with that. Now the passenger side is a different story. Now I do think we are going to work on the easier side, the driver's side for now, and then we'll come back to this side. But you can see there's a lot we have to move. This coolant jug, this coolant reservoir needs to move over. Thankfully, there's a good amount of room right next to it. So this can probably all push over. This fuse box, we're going to have to do something with it. I have no idea, but we'll see, because the coilover towers are gonna come probably right to the top of where this is at. This is really scary to look at. There's literally no going back now. Nice, check that out. That's how tall they are fully extended. We're gonna have to collapse them a little once we go to make the upper mount. But that looks awesome. That's freaking awesome. Now we're gonna be making these lower mounts right here at the bend where where this top of the truss comes back down to the axle tube. We're gonna try to make it as low profile as possible, because if we make it as low profile as possible, that just means that the upper coilover tower can be as short as possible. We're gonna try to get this all packaged here under the engine bay, and I know we're gonna be able to, but it's definitely gonna be a challenge. That looks really cool though. I like that. So I guess I'm gonna take this out. We don't really need the coil in here now. I just wanted you to see that inside of there. Instead of going to the other side and cutting all that stuff out, right now I'm gonna get to making the lower mount. Can't get over that. That is gonna look so cool. I have some pretty cool ideas on how I want to build these lower coilover mounts. I'm gonna go about this how I usually do. Take some measurements, cut out the design on cardboard to make sure it's gonna fit like I think it is. I don't have one of those fancy scanning cameras to scan the Jeep, although that would be really cool. I'm gonna look into that actually. And then finally, I'm gonna draw this up on Fusion 360 so I can get it cut out. So here's what I came up with for the lower coilover mounts. Let me know what y'all think down in the comments below of these. I think they look amazing. I think they look really cool. I think it's a really cool design. It's obviously gonna be strong enough. This is all 1/4" plate. It's definitely overkill. I probably could have made this outside piece out of like 3/16, but I had the 1/4" on the table already. Might as well just make it all out of 1/4". I'm not one to be worried about too much weight. I mean, I'm putting 1 ton in an Overland Cherokee. But yeah, I think this is a really cool design. But we're gonna go ahead and get another one of these cut out. We're gonna get them both tacked onto the Jeep with the coilover mounted. Then we can measure for the other 2 pieces. But yeah, I think this is really cool. I mean, it looks really cool, and it's definitely gonna be strong enough, like I said. The whole outside edge here and the inside as well is gonna be welded together. Let me know what y'all think of this down in the comments below. I really like it. I'd like to TIG this. I think that'd be really cool to TIG weld this. My machine is a multi-process machine, so I have the capability to do it. But yeah, I'm really happy with this. I'm gonna get another one cut out so we can get them tacked onto the Jeep.
All right, check out this lower coilover mount. I love this bracket. This thing is so cool looking. That is plenty strong too. So this is 2 1/4-inch pieces of metal on each side. We're gonna end up finish welding this. We're gonna weld all the inside of here and all the outside here, as well as like obviously welding it to the truss. And I think it's gonna look really good. We're obviously gonna add some piece in here and a piece out here, but that's gonna be afterwards because we might actually change this bracket. We're gonna try a different design on the other side, but I just want to tell you about this bracket a little bit first. Now there's a few reasons why I built this thing why I did. So I have it pretty far out on the truss, the mounting location for this. I didn't want to come any further in because at full droop, I don't want there to be any chance of this coilover contacting the unibody or say the coilover tower. But I didn't want to come out any further from this mounting location because at full bump, I don't want this tire to have any chance of contacting the coilover. Now this bracket is really tall. That might be a problem here. I made it this way because I wanted a really sharp angle here because at full bump, I was kind of afraid of the coilover contacting the bracket. But now that I'm looking at it, I think that we will be able to go a little shorter, at least like 2 inches, and we won't have that problem. Now these coilovers are fully extended right now. I took a few quick measurements, and at ride height with that bracket down there, this coilover is gonna be 3 inches above the hood. But what I'm thinking is we're gonna drop this bracket down 2 inches and then we'll raise the ride height or the body of the Jeep by 1 inch, and we should be able to shove these under the hood. We won't have to cut the hood. Cutting the hood is not an option. I do not want to do that on this. So the plan of attack is to make the new bracket for the passenger side. I'll get it all tacked together, and then eventually once we make new links and we can flex out the Jeep, we'll see which bracket will actually work. And then we'll just go ahead and make whatever bracket we're gonna use for the other side. So that's the game plan right now. So now, next, I'm gonna go ahead and start on the passenger side. We're gonna leave this side alone. I'm gonna start moving some stuff in the engine bay so we can cut another big hole into the Jeep.
It wasn't as much of a hassle as I thought it would be to move everything on this side. I removed the battery and its tray, the coolant reservoir, the coil pack, and the power distribution center. Once we have the coilover towers built, we'll be able to relocate these things to their final home. I made the same exact cuts to this side. We may have to open up these holes a little more later on, but I'd rather have to remove more metal than add some on. That's always a good thing to keep in mind. I spent a good amount of time designing the new brackets. I wanted to make sure they're gonna work, and soon enough I had them cut out with the CNC.
So here, I cut out 2 of them. Here is the final bracket I ended up cutting out. This is the new design. So what I did here was I lowered it quite a bit. And I was able to do that because I moved the mounting location, the hole for the coilover, outwards 1 inch. By doing so, I was able to drop the height of the bracket or the mounting location or the hole of the coilover down 3 inches. So this is much shorter than that original bracket on there. Like I said earlier, we're gonna get both of these tacked onto the passenger side, and then once we have links, probably in a future video, we're gonna see if these will actually work or maybe the other ones will work. I don't think they will, but we're gonna see if these will end up working. These aren't as cool as the other ones. I can probably make a cool 1/4-inch plate to go over this like the other one, but we're gonna wait. Like I said, we're gonna see if these work first. These actually weren't the first ones I cut out. I actually cut out this one to begin with. You can see I got a weird little dip in it right there. And I did that for the same reason. At full droop, I don't want the coilover coming into contact with the bracket. Now I didn't end up cutting another one of these out because I think I have more room down there than I actually think I do. I don't think the coilovers would come in contact with these brackets that I cut out. So I went away with this design. This is literally the same piece. It's just a little more metal added to it. But maybe we will need this, so I'll keep this one on hand. So yeah, I've been cutting out brackets all day. I've been designing these all day. Not all day, a few hours, just to make sure these will work. I don't want to waste any more time. So let's wrap up this video and get these 2 tacked on. Nice, look at that bracket. Much shorter this time. We're gonna be able to keep the Jeep nice and low with these. It's not as cool looking as the bracket we had over there. You can kind of see it. But it's definitely gonna function a little better for what we're trying to do. Hopefully that coilover won't come into contact with that bracket at full droop, but we're gonna have to wait till we have some links on the Jeep and then we can flex it out and see if that's gonna be the case. Right now, it's looking really good. It looks like we have plenty of room, but we're just gonna have to see. If not, it's back to the drawing board. This is part 4 of the Green Cherokee Resurrection series. I'm having a lot of fun at making this series and getting a lot done on the Jeep. The goal is to come out with a video every single week, every Wednesday, until the Jeep is done and it's hitting the trail again. We got a long road ahead of us, but we made a lot of progress so far. If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. We love seeing all the new subscribers. And let me know what you think of the series down in the comments below. As always, I appreciate you all for watching. I'll see you on the trail, and I'll see you next time.